I know y'all been seeing this everywhere, bro. These two been right here, Karmelo Anthony and this dude that got on the live about him, man. I know y'all been seeing this story everywhere, but I'm not finna take too much of y'all time. Like, get into it.
A confrontation between two teens left one dead and the country divided.
R.I.P. to him, though.
In this video, we're going to be breaking down the criminal case of Karmelo Anthony. April 2nd, 2025, it was 10 a.m. when the Staley Middle School resource officer heard over the radio there was a stabbing at the school track field. Frisco police would alert nearby officers an athlete was the victim, and the suspect was a black male wearing a gray hoodie and blue sweatpants.
Right.
The school officer rushed to the stadium where two teens told him the victim was under the Memorial High School tent. Approaching the tent, an adult would point out the suspect, who remained on the track separated from the officer by a chain link fence. The officer commanded the suspect to keep his hands in the air, and the suspect complied, saying, "I was protecting myself." As the officer placed the suspect in handcuffs, the suspect said, "He put his hands on me." The officer sat the suspect on the ground while advising back up over the radio he had the alleged suspect. The suspect then stated, "I'm not alleged, I did it." By this point, the suspect had the right to remain silent, he just didn't have the ability. While walking him to the police vehicle, the suspect became emotional, crying hysterically as he said, "He put his hands on me, I told him not to." While in the back seat, he then asked officers if the victim was going to be okay. The suspect would identify himself as 17-year-old Karmelo Anthony, a student from Frisco Centennial High. While this was going on, athletic trainers along with the Frisco Fire Department were attempting to save the victim. The weather turned to a heavy downpour of rain, causing the fire department to place a tent over the victim. A police officer began using his phone to photograph the crime scene, as others began taping off the area and moving non-essential people out of the stadium. Officers were informed the weapon used had been tossed, with a witness stating it was in the bleachers. Officers discovered the folding knife, partially open and still bloody, deciding to cover it with a tarp. An officer grabbed a backpack to weigh the tarp down, noticing it was the only backpack from Centennial High, as all the others were from Memorial. It was later discovered this was the suspect's backpack. The victim, identified as 17-year-old Austin Metcalf, was a Memorial High student. Investigators would learn the stadium was hosting a track and field championship with multiple schools in attendance. The stabbing took place under the Memorial High School pop-up tent in the visitors' bleachers. A witness would tell police he was sitting under the tent with his team and was near his teammate Austin as everything played out. Austin told the suspect, Karmelo, that he needed to move out from under their team's tent. Not only did Karmelo go to a different school, he was under their tent wearing Centennial High clothing. Karmelo grabbed his backpack, opened it, and reached inside telling Austin, "Touch me and see what happens."
See? When people say shit like that, you just leave them alone, you let them be. Okay, you got it. Boom. Problem solved. You know what I'm saying? If a nigga putting his hand in his backpack, bro, and he said, you know, "Put your hands on me and see." You know what I'm saying? Nigga, just leave it alone. Just leave that shit alone, bro. Just leave it alone, bro.
The witness told officers no one really thought Karmelo had any weapons, so Austin proceeded to touch Karmelo. Karmelo then told Austin to punch him and see what happens. A short time later, Austin grabbed Karmelo to tell him to move, and Karmelo pulled out what the witness described as a black knife, stabbing Austin once in the chest before running away.
Hold on. We finna get back into the video, but before we do, man, I just want to say, man, if y'all want to keep seeing these videos, man, follow this page right here, follow this page right here, and follow this last page right here. These are all three of my pages right here, man. And man, follow them up, man. Let's get it. Let's run it up, man. Appreciate y'all, man. Let's get back into the video. Now look, what I can say in this situation is that's self-defense, bro. You know what I'm saying? He touched him first. And it's not even a racial thing. I'm just being honest from both sides. You know what I'm saying? The dude wasn't even supposed to be there in the first place, right? You know what I'm saying? He in a whole different school area, you know what I'm saying? The white dude, the memorial, he was in a memorial school. That's his little tent under there. The black dude came under there. That's not supposed to be under there. You know what I'm saying? You're on a different team. You're in a different school, man. Move around. You know what I'm saying? He told him, "Oh nah, I'm not moving around. I got my backpack. Touch me and see." The dude still proceeded to touch him. I don't know if he punched him or not, but he still put his hands on him, trying to move him out the way. That's self-defense. That's self-defense from what I'm hearing right now.
Austin began grabbing his chest, telling everyone to get help. And shortly after, he'd lose consciousness, stop breathing, and never wake up again.
Damn.
2 more witnesses were found breathing heavily and crying, one of which was identified as the victim's younger brother. He was unable to say much, but his friends said they were sitting on the bleachers under the Memorial High School tent.
That gotta be the worst thing ever.
A male wearing a different school's clothes came and sat down, so Austin told him since he didn't go to Memorial, he had to leave the tent. While arguing, Austin was stabbed and the suspect ran. Austin's younger brother held on to his older brother as he lost consciousness, bleeding out in his brother's arms.
Damn, bro.
It was 10:46 a.m. when Austin was brought into the trauma bay at the hospital. 7 minutes later, he was pronounced dead. His heart had been pierced and he bled to death. Officers listed student witnesses from Lebanon High, Liberty High, Memorial High, Frisco High, Independence High, and Emerson High. Centennial High's head coach told officers he heard his athlete confess to the stabbing, while 2 coaches from Independence High School witnessed the stabbing. Karmelo Anthony would be charged with first-degree murder and transported to the Collin County Jail.
Right.
Under Texas law, even at 17 years old, Karmelo could and would be charged as an adult. His bond would be set at $1 million. Immediately following his arrest, social media would divide black versus white. Some of the black community would come to the immediate defense of Karmelo, stating it was purely self-defense and he's only been arrested because of the fact that his victim is white. They'd also claim the victim in this case was the aggressor.
Right.
While GoFundMe doesn't allow funding lawyers for criminal cases, apparently GiveSendGo does, and over $500,000 has been raised for Karmelo, with a list of donation comments raising concern amongst journalists.
Right, my question is though, bro, these people getting stabbed every single day though. Why is this just the biggest story? You know what I'm saying? A black dude stopping a white dude. You know what I'm saying? If it was a black dude stopping another black dude, that's not gonna be on the news. A white dude stopping a white dude, that's not gonna be on the news. You know what I'm saying? It just seems like this is the biggest story. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying though, you know what I'm saying? I'm just
One anonymous donation would label Karmelo an anti-bullying hero, a scholar, and a gentleman. A donator named Black Excellence would donate again, stating, "The more these hateful whites show their insecurities and fragilities of losing dominance, sending love, light, and justice to King Karmelo." Rock from Atlanta.
Don't encourage no murder now. You know what I'm saying? You talking about I'm proud. You know what I'm saying? Don't encourage a murder. You know what I'm saying? Don't. You shouldn't be proud that he murdered someone. You know what I'm saying? It was self-defense, but you don't have to be proud of that. You know, it was self-defense. You know what I'm saying?
Would comment, "We are the defenders of our lineage. This is America, and these flat whiteness immigrants from all over the world has always been open enemies towards foundational black Americans from day one. No more." Some in the white community would also speak out, stating this wasn't self-defense, it was flat-out murder. Many would be enraged at the fact that Austin's killer was being praised for being black and killing a white. The donations spoke for themselves, literally, and many have also stated if the races were reversed and the victim was black, there would be riots and looting. Karmelo's actions in Austin's death was now being politicized and used by radicals on both sides to justify prejudice.
Right.
In simpler terms, it didn't matter who was right or wrong because the ones speaking out don't care about Karmelo or Austin, they care about their own agenda. Things would heat up again on April 14, 2025, when Judge Angela Tucker reduced Karmelo's bond from $1 million down to $250,000.
Yeah, 500.
She also agreed to release him based on his clean criminal record and his athletic/academic background.
Didn't YB free him too? I heard YB freed him. Let's watch the video and see what
Karmelo would then be released under the conditions he wear an ankle monitor and be supervised by a parent at all times.
Right.
Judge Tucker's decision would cause her to receive violent and racist threats on social media, leaving her with no choice but to privatize her Twitter. Judge Tucker's personal security has also been temporarily increased as the FBI investigate anyone who released private or personal information about her, as they plan to charge those responsible with unlawful disclosure of a resident's address or telephone number and obstruction or retaliation. Karmelo and his family would also be targeted through death threats and harassment.
Wow.
People would visit his home, loitering and taking pictures, while others would make false food delivery orders and send hate mail, including Austin's obituary. It became common for people to circle the home in their vehicles to
It
essentially...
seemed like a huge, crazy story. Imagine you unaliving somebody, whether it was self-defense or not. You got people coming out your house, sending you obituaries. You know what I'm saying? Coming out your doorstep, coming out your parents. You know what I'm saying? Sending all kind of threats and things like that. Bro, it's like it's like they gonna never forget this. Everybody that's against Karmelo, like nobody's gonna forget that, bro. They're gonna stay at his neck all the time. It's like they're gonna keep coming at him. They're gonna basically try to force him to unalive himself probably too.
actually provoke fear and intimidation. Karmelo's family would have no choice but to use donation funds to relocate to an undisclosed location. But this harassment wasn't one-sided. Frisco police would receive a phone call reporting a shooting at Austin Metcalf's father's home.
Oh.
Another shooting would be reported at his mother's home. This would happen a total of 3 times, all 3 being fake reports known as swatting, in which an anonymous person contacts police and they respond to what they believe to be a violent situation.
Right.
Swatting has even led to innocent people being killed by police.
Damn, bro.
Austin's father, Jeff, has been making headlines himself as he attempted to make peace with his son's killer's family and pray together at a press conference held for Karmelo. Instead, he was escorted out by police, with Karmelo's family apparently uninterested in making amends.
What we seen at the beginning of this press conference, the father being at this press conference,
Right.
these are my words. Don't quote anybody. Is a disrespect to the dignity of his son. That was disrespectful and just shows you all the character. He was not invited. He knows that it's inappropriate to be near this family.
The main voice speaking for the Anthony family was not actually a member, but the so-called minister, Dominique Alexander.
Right.
Describing himself as a minister of justice, political, civil, and human rights activist, and supporter of Black Lives Matter, his suit, tie, and slow way of speaking aligns with more of a gimmick from a man with an agenda. Come to find out, Dominique has a long criminal history himself and served prison time for abusing a baby. Back in July of 2009, he was babysitting his girlfriend's 2-year-old son when he called her telling her to get home now. He didn't tell her why, and when she arrived, the child was unresponsive. He'd claimed he'd walked into another room and heard the baby boy fall off the couch as he was watching a movie. When he walked back in, the boy's eyes looked funny, later telling a detective they rolled to the back of his head. The 2-year-old boy was placed in the intensive care unit and discovered to have a subdural hemorrhage at the back of his head, meaning blood around his brain. He also had retinal hemorrhaging, meaning bleeding in both of his eyes. The severity of the boy's injuries were ruled inconsistent with falling off a couch and more consistent with abusive head trauma and physical abuse. Dominique would later plead guilty in this case. Dominique would address his multiple arrests from theft, forgery, stealing a car, making a false police report. The list goes on. He'd say social media would try to shame him, but ended up showing his testimony. That when he first stepped into activism in 2014, he didn't hide who he was, and he was even named Person of the Year for the Dallas Observer's People Edition in 2015.
You're a better man
But
now.
in 2019, Dominique would be arrested for striking and pushing his girlfriend.
Dominique Alexander, the founder of the Next Generation Action Network, was indicted today on a charge of continuous violence against the family. That's a third-degree felony. He was arrested back in April after his girlfriend, Kiera Saunders, told police Alexander assaulted her. However, in an affidavit filed before today's indictment, Saunders says she doesn't want any part of the prosecution.
Regardless, this was the face of Karmelo Anthony's family.
Right.
A man whose sole purpose is speaking against so-called racist police who target black men. He was now taking this opportunity to make Karmelo the victim who had to defend himself against his white attacker. So let's look at the facts. Karmelo was an athlete from Centennial High. During a track and field competition, he chose to sit under an opposing school's tent.
Right.
Austin was an athlete from Memorial High and confronted Karmelo about being under his team's tent.
Yeah.
Austin would grab Karmelo's backpack telling him to leave and eventually push Karmelo, while Karmelo would grab his backpack reaching inside telling Austin, "Touch me and see what happens." Austin would continue, which led to Karmelo pulling out the knife and stabbing him. Now my boy JD DeLay would break down Texas self-defense laws perfectly.
Constitutes lawful self-defense. It's all going to depend on what state you're in because each state has different laws. But for the sake of relevant current events, let's talk about the state of Texas. The state of Texas has the best self-defense laws out of any state in the country. They have stand your ground laws, which means that you do not have to retreat. You're allowed to defend yourself if somebody threatens or physically harms you.
Right.
But you're only allowed to use proportional violence. So if somebody's coming at you with hands and you shoot them, you could be in a lot of trouble. All depends on the valid and articulable threat that was there at the time. If somebody's coming after you with a gun or a knife, then you are definitely in your realm to be able to use lethal force. However, this does require that you did not instigate the incident and that you are not somewhere that you are not supposed to be. You instigated the incident. If you are somewhere you don't belong or if you use excessive force, self-defense is out the window. Like I said, this is specifically applicable to the state of Texas and their laws, so know the law where you live. Might just save your life or keep your ass out of prison.
In this situation, not only was Karmelo somewhere he wasn't supposed to be,
Right.
as he didn't go to Memorial High and should have been with his own team,
Yeah.
he was armed with a weapon he wasn't supposed to have. His mere presence during a competition could be seen as provoking an opposing school. After being confronted, Karmelo would reach in his bag saying, "Touch me and see what happens." The fact that Karmelo ran track, if he was in fear for his life, he literally just could have ran. But in a stand your ground case, he doesn't legally have to. But Austin wasn't threatening to kill, use a weapon, or even beat him. He was telling him to leave. So Karmelo using deadly force as self-defense seems very unjustified.
Wait. So Austin didn't touch him? I'm gonna just keep listening.
But also telling someone touch me and see what happens can qualify as instigating the incident. If a gang member walks to a rival gang's territory with an illegal weapon, daring a rival gang member to touch him so he can legally kill him, that doesn't qualify as self-defense.
It don't.
So if an opposing athlete sits in an opposing team's area with a concealed weapon and stabs someone when confronted, I don't see how he can claim self-defense. Karmelo would show emotion, hysterically crying after the incident, even asking if Austin was okay. This shows compassion. And while a former FBI agent claims from her experience Karmelo was using an insane Vice Lord's gang sign while holding an AK-47, the full picture would show Karmelo at a friend's house holding a BB gun in which the orange tip has been removed. No more extreme than Austin and his brother holding real guns. Karmelo wasn't a thug. He came from a nice job with 2 parents in an affluent area.
Okay.
He held a job at a kid's Foot Locker, was captain of the football team and track team. Should he have had a knife? No. But how many teen boys have carried pocket knives? Just because he's black doesn't mean he was looking to stab someone that day.
Nah,
I think
definitely
teenage pride and ego.
I feel like, bro, I feel like he would just protect. I feel like him having a weapon on him, it just protecting himself. You know what I'm saying? Because you never know what may happen. But in so-called this situation, something just happened, bro.
Led to an irreversible decision.
I'm not on nobody's side though, bro. I'm not picking Austin's side. I'm not picking Karmelo's side. I don't want nobody on my neck. Now, I'm just a reactor. You know what I'm saying?
I think regret and compassion
There's
should
things on
weigh
both
the
sides,
scale
you know.
of justice.
That could have been avoided.
I don't think Karmelo was innocent of murder, but I also don't think he placed himself there with the intent to kill.
Yeah.
Looking at their athletic stats, Austin was 6 foot tall and 220 pounds, while Karmelo was 5'10", 175 pounds. Karmelo resorted to a weapon out of fear, but I don't believe he feared for his life. I believe he feared he'd get beat up. Unfortunately, I don't think this fear meets the legal qualification to kill someone in self-defense. I also feel his self-defense won't stand because he provoked Austin by saying, "Touch me and see what happens." When Austin touched him, he then said, "Hit me and see what happens." It would be different if he displayed the knife and told him he's prepared to defend himself. In the end, a teenage athlete died while another faces prison. And countless people with nothing better to do are using this to fuel political agendas. Now, this case is tragic.
It is.
Controversial. There's a lot of elements to this case, right? And it's going to be difficult for them to find jurors that haven't been swayed by the media in this situation. The biggest topic with this is going to be race and racism. You have Dominique Alexander, the spokesperson for the family, who used the roughly 40 minutes of the press conference to basically race bait and play the victim role as a black man in America, while not confronting his 20 to 30 arrests and the fact that his only victims from physical crimes seem to be a baby boy and a woman, right? That's what he's been arrested for. He was convicted for abusing the baby, and both of them in that situation were black.
Right.
But he chooses to now classify himself as an activist and only goes after situations involving white people, which we also see with Black Lives Matter. They only speak out when a white person is involved. This situation is being blown out of proportion by radicals on both sides. And Austin's father, who tried to make amends with the family and was met with dismissal, he has even expressed to white radicals that are trying to push this white agenda, look, I don't believe in y'all's bullshit. This isn't a race thing. This is 2 teenagers and something unfortunate that happened.
It's not a race thing,
but I'm
bro.
not siding with racists. I'm not siding with bullshit.
Right. I'm not siding with nothing.
I'm just trying to get over the fact that my son was killed. And he was killed by another boy who was scared. You know what I mean? And that's essentially what I think happened. I think that Karmelo was scared, but I don't think that fear is enough to justify stabbing somebody in the eye. In my opinion, how I think this case will play out, how it should play out, and how it will play out are 2 different things.
Right.
I think based on all of the evidence, him admitting to it, the fact that he showed compassion, the fact that, he's a flawless student, he's an athlete, maybe that this, at best would get brought down to a manslaughter type of offense. I don't know the legalities in Texas.
Hey, this is one of the craziest stories that I heard, bro. You know what I'm saying? What do y'all think about this? Are y'all siding? Are y'all on Austin's side? Are y'all on Karmelo's side? What do you think Karmelo wrong? Do you think Austin is wrong? Do you think they're both wrong? Do you think Karmelo's right? Do you think Austin's right in his situation? Y'all let me know, bro, because honestly, this a crazy one. One was basically Karmelo did it out of fear, allegedly. You know what I'm saying? This is not 100% sure, but then I don't know, bro. Y'all let me know in the comments, man.